Good evening and happy Sabbath to all of you. I'd like to paint a picture of when I was in high school just a few years ago, 81 through 85. I typically would come home exhausted, and in the winter months, with sundown as early as it is, I'd usually get home. Sundown happened, and so everything would stop. We would have prepared our meals, would have prepared our house. I was the vacuumer in my family's house. I would have gotten all that done in preparation for the Sabbath. And then usually between when sundown and dinner around 6, I'd crash. I would flat out fall asleep on the couch. All the way through high school, I'd take a long nap, and it was wonderful because then in the evenings, I would do what you're doing. I'd have dinner with my family. We'd go to Vespers at the academy, or go to Vespers at the college when I was at Walla Walla College, and then spend time with each other, unobstructed time with each other afterwards in conversation. And a blessing that I had in high school and college that no longer exists is that I didn't have technology distracting me when I came home from school that said, hey, maybe you can catch up on some sports highlights because the Mariners started playing yesterday. So my Sabbath would begin a little bit early. And when I would go to Vespers, I wouldn't have technology when I'd walk into a room. And so the Sabbath's blessing was something that stayed with me. I love what we have in this day and age with the resources around us. But I don't for a moment want us to forget what we need more than the value that is found in distractions and technology around us. We need the sanctuary of the Sabbath more than anything else. You'll get about 20 days of vacation if you get 4 weeks off and you work. You'll get 20 days of vacation. And God knew before that you needed 52 days of Sabbaths. That's a whole lot more than the vacation that the world says you'll get from work. I invite you to paint a picture of the Sabbath that you plan and you control. I implore you to create a picture of a Sabbath that is free from worldly distractions, even if it is the most fun, distractible little game that is innocent and yet can consume hours and time with your friends right beside you or around you. I invite you to stop and listen, to sing and shout to your God, and realize what the Sabbath is made for. It's a chance for you to renew everything that we have been left insufficient with during the week, because God can renew us. So welcome to Vespers. The team has a wonderful Vespers with us this evening. We'll have songs afterwards, sing a little while for those of you that want to stay and sing. Mrs. Fackenthal and I will pull out some hymns or some older praise songs and revel in what God has given us on this Sabbath day. Thank you. Glad you're here.
All right. Hi, everyone. Welcome. Our first song is Reckless Love, and I invite you to stand or sit or do whatever you need to worship.
Tell me when. That was loud. Are we good? Here it is.
Before I spoke a word, you were singing over me. You have been so, so good to me. Before I took a breath, you breathed your life in me. You have been so, so kind to me. And oh, the don't deserve it. Still you give yourself away. And oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. When I was your foe, still your love offered me. You have been so, so good to me. When I felt no worth, you paid it all for me. You have been so, so kind to me. And oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Oh, it chases me down, finds till I found these the 99. And I couldn't earn it, and I don't deserve it. Still you give yourself away. And oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. There's no shadow you won't light up, mountain you won't climb up, coming after me. There's no wall you won't kick down, lie you won't tear down, coming after me. There's no shadow you won't light up, mountain you won't climb up, coming after me. There's no wall you won't kick down, lie you won't tear down, coming after me. And oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Oh, it chases me down, finds till I'm found, leaves the 99. I couldn't earn it, and I don't deserve it. Still you give yourself away. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Amen.
Yes.
Oh, I've heard 1,000 stories of what they think you're like, but I've heard the tender whispers of love in the dead of night, and you tell me that you're pleased and that I'm never alone. You're a good, good Father. It's who you are, it's who you are, it's who you are, and I'm loved by you. It's who I am, it's who I am, it's who I am. Well, I've seen many searching for answers far and wide, but I know we're all searching for answers only you provide. You know just what we need before we say a word. You're a good, good Father. It's who you are, it's who you are, it's who you are, and I'm loved by you. It's who I am, it's who I am, it's who I am. You are perfect in all of your ways. You are perfect in all of your ways. You are perfect in all of your ways to us. Deeper still as you call me. Deeper still as you call me. Deeper still into love, love. You're a good, good Father. It's who you are. It's who you are. It's who you are. And I'm loved by you. It's who I am. It's who I am. It's who I am. Lord, I ask that you will be here with us tonight, that you will come into this place, that you will worship with us. Thank you for taking care of us this week. I know a lot of us are super, super tired, so please give us that rest that we need this Sabbath. I know tomorrow's also going to be a long day for us, so please help us to feel your love, to feel your peace, and help us to sleep well tonight. In your name I pray, amen.
Hi. So I'm gonna do Sabbath candle. I hope I can light the match. But so what Sabbath means to me is, you know how in the Bible it says that the Sabbath was made for man and not man for the Sabbath? And it's just like such a big reminder that it's like God loved us so freaking much that he made something specifically for us. Like, that's how great the Father's love is for us, that he was like, I'm going to give you guys a whole day just to spend with you. And like, as someone that loves quality time, it just like, anytime I just like ponder upon it and like think about it, it just like touches my heart, because it's like, God really loves us that much. And I think it's something that we'll never come to comprehend, but it's still just so amazing. So, yeah. Okay, it's on. Yay! So, I'd like to invite up our speaker. Guys probably seen her around. She goes to the AA church, named Brenda Ferguson, I think is how you pronounce her last name. I'm not completely sure, I'm not gonna lie. So yeah, give her your full attention, and let's see what God is trying to tell us through her. So, time is all yours.
Let me know. Oh, yes. All right. Oh, wow. Yeah, I can tell. Let me get some water. So, I was texted by Mrs. Martin yesterday. Hey, do you have a topic for? She's actually said, can you talk about improv and good stories and how that pertains to our lives? And I was like, I just compiled my ideas and talked about it at a retreat. So, plus improv, so yes, I can jump in. And I wanted to talk about this, the better story, and I wanted to talk about my own testimony a little bit. And I've taught improv. Does anyone not know what improv is? Just raise your hands. Okay, maybe not. You know, you're making up scenes and skits like theater, but it's on the spot. So coming up with, there's games, but sometimes it's just you tell a story. And I don't know if any of you have seen like Whose Line Is It Anyway, or any kind of show like that, but there's a lot of fun ways to do it too. But I've done improv for 10 years. I've taught improv. My husband and I were on the team for 10 years up in Seattle. We had, at the Green Lake Adventist Church, we did improv. And there's a lot more to it than just being funny, and I wanted to share that. So first of all, my testimony. I was raised in a more of a sheltered environment that caused me to be a little more like nervous or cautious. And I grew up with anxiety, and I was the kid that, I don't have a paper, so it won't be as visual, but if I was doing a presentation, I was the shaker. I was the one that was like, ah, and I just got a sick stomach, and I didn't want to be up front. I was very uncomfortable. I'd get a red face, super embarrassing. I had anxiety that I didn't understand. I didn't have words for. Back in like the 90s, there wasn't a lot of talk about that, mental health stuff. And I would get worked up and anxious, sometimes to the point of vomiting. And I just didn't know what was wrong with me. And I didn't understand that until I was an adult. And I've had a lot of victory there. But one of the things that helped me really transform from being completely comfortable, I'm not nervous at all right now, being up front, not that I never get nervous, I still do sometimes, is doing improv. So we used to go to the shows up in Seattle. My husband and I were young adults, and they were like, oh, you should come to our workshops and stuff. I'm like, okay, we learn improv. And then they said, you should audition. You should come and audition to be on the team. And Jesse, he's outgoing, and he's like, yeah, audition. I'm like, no. And then finally, okay. And then they're like, oh, you're really good. Join the team. And I'm like, now I have to be on stage. People are going to stare at me. I am very uncomfortable. But going through that process was so helpful to me. And now I can lead worship, preach, do all sorts of stuff, and get over myself. And there's a lot of healing too with just prayer and understanding God and fear, and I can go into all of that side of my testimony, but this is specifically about our stories. So one thing when I started teaching improv and going through, and I had my list of like the improv 10 commandments kind of rules, because you think, how can you practice improv, right, when you're just making stuff up? No, there are rules. There are very specific rules you must practice, and you drill them until they're second nature in your mind, and then you can get up on stage and completely make something up with full trust in your team, if you have a good team. If you have a bad team, it doesn't go so well. And so I was looking at these principles, and I realized the reason why they work so well and you can make a good story is because these are principles that God uses in our lives to make good lives. And it just blew my mind. And I could stay up till all wee hours of the night talking about how improv is so like a little tiny like planet that you're watching. Like it's like us doing improv is like a little story of life, like God watching our life on the planet. So I wanted to go to the next slide. I'm going to boil it down. There's a ton of rules, and I'm not going to teach you all the ins and outs of improv because you're not all doing improv. Although if you're interested in improv, talk to me, because I'm going to start doing improv with the drama kids again after the play. And I am doing improv for anyone else, like church people and stuff, Wednesday nights here. So talk to me if you're interested and about learning it. Even if you're not interested in performing or doing drama, it's super helpful for your character and getting over insecurities, and I highly recommend it. So I boiled down all the rules of improv into like 3 main points. And they're involved these things: how you feel about yourself, how you treat others around you, or specifically on your team, and then how to create a good story in the first place. So I'm going to talk about improv, and then I'll apply it to life at each step so you can kind of understand where I'm going. So next slide. The first rule is don't edit yourself. What is editing? Editing is, in improv, editing is when you have a thought or an idea, and then you immediately say, that's not good enough, and you try to think of a better one. And you keep doing this, and that's why you see people go, when they, like, any ideas, suggestions, people go, and they stall because they want to be funny, good, interesting. What I am, how I am, what I think of isn't good enough. I need to be better. That's one of the biggest problems in improv. So we drill and we practice just saying the first thing that comes to your mind. Yes, we don't want to be offensive and vulgar and all of that, but beyond that, just the first idea. And when I do improv with an audience and we get a suggestion, you can tell when someone cares about what other people think and when they don't. I go, can I get a random object, or can I get a location? And they'll just go, kitchen, a bathroom, whatever. Cardboard box, I don't care what the suggestion is, but if I get a suggestion for something and they're like, green alien space monkeys, and they just keep going, and it's like, you're trying to be funny, But we don't need that. I just want anything. We can do a good scene with any suggestion. So saying the first thing that comes to your mind, not worrying about editing yourself specifically. I wanted to stop at the editing specifically because when we think about editing ourselves in life, I mean, the biggest thing I think of is social media. I'm going to take a picture and I'm going to edit it before I post it. We use Photoshop. We edit our appearance. I can't let someone see me without my makeup on. We cover up, we edit, we try to project an image of something. We're not good enough just how we are. How often do we see each other in our raw state? You know, where we've ugly cried, our face is red. Even when I have cried, I'll try to put cold water on my face to make sure it doesn't look like my eyes are red. You know, it's just can I just unedit myself? The second point is failure is okay. One of the big things in improv we do is we talk about how if you do a bad scene, it doesn't matter, just do another one. We practice and practice and practice, and we're like, ugh, that was, okay, blow it up, boom, we blow it up, that's what we say. We just go boom, and then we just start a new scene because mistakes are fine. You can keep trying. The point is to keep going, and I think of Proverbs 24:16 that says, though a righteous man falls 7 times, he rises again. It's not about the falling, it's about the rising. Stay in character. This is a big one. So when I'm training new improvisers, a lot of people break character. They laugh. They say something out of character. If you're a grandma and then you just start talking differently all of a sudden, or trying to be funny, you're breaking character. It's not being authentic. And with that comes commenting and jokes at the expense of the scene. So if you're in a scene and there's a reality, and then you make a comment or a joke that is something that they'll laugh at, but it's not true to the reality of the scene, then you're just trying to be funny to get attention for yourself, but you're breaking apart the reality you've established on stage. And so I think about breaking character and avoiding jokes and comments. Are we trying to be funny because we're worried we're not good enough? Am I making a joke at someone else's expense? Oftentimes in improv, we need to trust each other, and when I take a scene and I just make it into a joke so that I can get a laugh, I'm doing it at the expense of my teammates. And so in life we can do that. We can make a joke, hurt someone's feelings to get a laugh at the expense of those around us, and that's not productive. It destroys the scene, and it can destroy our life scenes, if you will, when we do that kind of behavior. So the main point is, be your genuine self, and things will unfold better in your life story, instead of trying to edit, cover up, and be something you're not. Just relax. Next slide. So yes, and. This is one of my favorite things, and it's what does that mean? Okay, so in a basic scene, I'm going to have Jesse come up for a second. Do you have a mic? Jesse can borrow. So yes and is the concept of agreeing and supporting yes, and then and is adding new information. It builds a scene. So the opposite of yes and is called blocking. Blocking, I'm going to read this from my notes. Blocking is either denying the reality that was just set up or turning down an offer. This delays the scene advancement. It can be confusing. So I'm going to do an example of a block. And this happens a lot when you're starting out improv. It's very normal. So just start a scene, and then I will horribly block you.
Aunt Gertrude, there's cat vomit on the couch.
I don't own a cat. What are you talking about? And besides, we're at a restaurant.
There's still cat vomit on the couch of the restaurant.
Are you okay? Have you been taking your medicine, Grandpa? I don't know. See what I'm doing? I'm completely invalidating him. And when this happens, if both people are blocking, it just makes a really confusing scene, because you're arguing as improvisers. No, my idea. No, my idea. No, my idea. And we just need to say yes and. So start the scene over again. And I'll literally say yes and, but we drill that, but it becomes second nature. You don't always have to say it, but go ahead.
Aunt Gertrude, there's cat vomit on the couch.
Yes, and we're going to have company over in 10 minutes. And I asked you to clean up.
Yes, and there was nothing in the hall closet to clean up cat vomit.
And the people are going to be here for your birthday party. And it can keep going, and we build and trust.
And Uncle Ted is allergic to cat vomit.
And you can keep, but if you know the other person's going to just love your offer and add to it, it feels really safe to go out on a limb. But if you're blocked, it's like it breaks trust. And so, stay up here. So here's an example of, it's kind of like that. So if I have an idea, right? I'm like, ooh, I'm going to enter a scene, and I'm going to be a fireman. I've got this really cool idea. And if I walk into the scene, before I've said anything, and he calls me Grandma, go ahead, call me, hey, Grandma.
Hey, Grandma.
Oh, hey, Sonny. You know, I have to immediately ditch my idea of fireman, give it up, sacrifice it, and go with what he just said, because that's what all you all heard. And that literally happened. I was going to be a fireman, and someone called me Grandma. And I was Grandma, and it was a great scene. If everyone is supporting each other, it creates a safe environment for failure. In fact, there is no failure in improv, and I'll get to that in a little, at the bottom there, justify mistakes. So in life, this is a wonderful principle. If you can take away anything, there's a couple anything takeaways, but yes and, if you can remember that, yes and. How can I say yes and? We get into arguments because we're like, no, but I'm right. If I can say, how can I say yes to you and add to it? How can I agree with you? How can I bridge? How can I find common ground with this person I disagree with? How can I say yes and to them and invite them into a trusting relationship? Avoiding questions is another one that is, questions are terrible in improv because what they do is they put the burden of creation on the other person. So I'm just gonna have you stand there and be baffled here, but these are the worst ones I've seen and probably done at some point. We're in a cave or something, right? Okay. Oh no, what's that?
I don't know, you tell me.
When I say, what's that, right? Or here's another one. Okay, oh no. Read this letter. Read it out loud. See, what I'm doing is I go, I don't have a good idea. Here, you do it. That's passing the buck.
It could be because you're editing yourself.
Well, and I'm editing myself because I probably had a couple ideas, but they weren't good enough, so I'm just going to make him do it. And that breaks trust too. Passing the buck specifically is leave a difficult problem to someone else to deal with. When people do that, I go, no, you say it. What's that? You tell them what that is. We need to be responsible for ourselves. And we shouldn't pass things off to other people. We need to take care of things for ourselves. We need to be accountable, and we need to just step it up and not push our responsibilities off on other people. Supporting each other. I love this one. Don't enter a scene unless you are needed. You are not the focus of every scene. Make your fellow improvisers look good. If there's a scene going between Jesse and someone else, and I'm on the sidelines like, man, I'm really bored, I want to be in a scene, I could run in and start doing stuff, and it's not needed. I'm just wanting attention for myself. And I've seen that, where you get 4 or 5 people in a scene, it gets really confusing. And when we're in a scene, and someone needs to take the hit, die, leave, you can tell when people have control issues when they do not let that happen. You have a space alien ray gun, and you're like, and I'm like, force field, or, just blocking everything constantly so I can stay in and I can get attention and it's all about me. Or I'm in a scene and somebody really needs to be humbled, they're really pompous and they started that way, and everybody in the audience, you can tell, they all know this person needs to be brought low. But the actor is like, that ain't gonna happen. Because they have some sort of issue they haven't resolved within their personal life, and they just won't do it. And they'll stay high status, they'll stay important and bossy, and then the scene doesn't change. And so we need to realize that it's not all about us. If we help make other people in the scene comfortable and look good, if we come and support each other in our lives, and it's about self-sacrifice. If I need to die, if I need to take the hit, I'm going to do it. And that's Jesus all over, right? Jesus came down, and he took the hit, and he sacrificed himself for us, and he made himself low, and submitted to death, even death on a cross. And I think about how he did that, not to glorify himself even, but to glorify his Father. And so we shouldn't try to protect ourselves or promote ourselves, because if we're all doing that together, if I'm helping him out and he's helping me out, then it's just like heaven on earth in a little tiny way on the scene, but then also if we're just doing that. Okay, this is the cool one, justifying mistakes. There are no mistakes in improv if you are a good improviser, because you justify mistakes. I have seen all sorts of really weird things justified. My favorite one was, I was in a scene with a guy, and I made the mistake. I forget names all the time. And if I'm not paying attention, I will forget. And what happens is, I called the guy Charlie. And then we had a little scene, I'm doing something, and I forgot his name, and I needed to call him, and so I called him Marcus. And I knew it was wrong. And then he said, do you remember?
Charcus.
No, he said Charlie Marcus first.
Charlie Marcus.
He
There
said,
you go.
well, Charlie Marcus, my middle name's Marcus. And then we both at the same time went, Charcus. And it was brilliant, because all of a sudden now, my mistake wasn't a mistake. He covered for me. He turned it into something. Even if they knew, they were like, wow, that's cool. And I've done that so many times. You make a mistake, and the other people come around, and they try to figure out how to make it work. And this one's really beautiful to me. 1 Peter 4:8 says, above all, keep loving one another deeply, since love covers a multitude of sins. What if we did this in real life? What if we covered each other instead of exposing each other? You could make it into a huge joke and point out and say, ha, look at the mistake they made, or you could cover them. You could take the hit for them. You could justify it. And I just think that's beautiful when we see people around us make mistakes, we don't like it. If I'm angry at him, he's my husband, if I'm angry at him, I can try to point out his flaws and his sin. What if I covered him? What if I said it's okay? What if I justified him? What if I loved him and supported him? Next slide. Okay, so I'm just going to tell you this because I'm going to be referring to it a little bit later, the basic story structure or the narrative arc. If you want to tell a good story, if you want to learn how to tell your testimony or anything, you have to tell a children's story. Following this format is just super helpful. And every movie has this in it. Every story you'll read has a setup, once upon a time, and every day. That's like the normal routine, the status quo, the way your life is. Stories get interesting at the one day something changed. One day, it stopped raining. One day, the person didn't come over like they were supposed to. That there was a drought. I already said stop raining, I guess. And then there's these consequences because of that, until finally is the climax, and then ever since that day is the resolution. This is the Western storytelling. There's other ways of telling stories. But this basic structure is once upon a time and every day is your routine. One day is smashing that routine, breaking it apart. And then all of it is the fallout, the consequences until ever since that day, that's your new routine. So you have routine, you break the routine, and then you have a new established routine. Now, I'm going to go to the next slide. I'll explain why that's important in a little bit. Next slide. So this is the last one, is take the active choice. So always make choices that can further a scene. So let's say, give me, let's get into a scene. Hey, can I get a suggestion for a location? I don't care what it is.
A place like a kitchen or a bathroom.
It doesn't matter. I don't care. Shout out something. Living room, okay. And can I get something that went wrong? Flipping burgers in the living room. Interesting. Okay.
That's where I make my burgers.
Okay. So, flipping burgers in the living room. I'll go with it. So this is about taking the active choice. So Jesse's going to present me with some sort of option, and I'm going to just completely cancel and ditch that really awesome option, okay? So, Mikey, you brought burgers in the living room?
Yeah, I brought burgers in the living room for the dog because he was so hungry. And look at how skinny he is. His bones are showing.
No, that's normal with the ribcage. Look, Mikey, I told you a million times, we can't just keep feeding the dog whatever we eat. He has stomach conditions.
I'm sorry. Okay. Mom, does he like cake? Because I brought him cake too, but it's gone now.
Oh, no.
Also, all of the chocolate and grapes and raisins
Mikey.
and celery. But I didn't, because I didn't like celery, and so I gave it to him. He didn't want it really bad, but I gave it to him really hard, and then he ate it.
Oh, Mikey. Okay, so pause. I want you to specifically, and he's on the spot right now, and that's fine. Give me an offer, like invite me into something.
Okay.
And then I will just completely.
Mom, there's one thing left. I got the Pop-Tarts. You want to help me feed him?
No, we need to clean this all up.
Okay.
So the active choice, right? If you were to invite me or say, like, what if we created a food for the dog, or we work together to make it, and I just cancel it and go, well, that's kind of weird. I don't know how that's going to work out, so I'm just going to block him or say no to the active choice, right? We stay safe. We pick the interesting option. Or like the phone rings, but no one's there. We just canceled like the scene, right? It doesn't work. People cancel daring ideas because they're afraid. And people are afraid of completing a transaction because they don't know what to do next. So if I'm in a transaction at a store, right, and who the scene is, I'm a shopper and he's the clerk, I can't just buy my stuff and leave because that ends the scene, right? So you just talk and talk and talk and delay, and you're just talking because you're afraid. What if we ended the scene and and I invited you to come with me?
Let's see that.
There's all sorts of. Oh, you want to show that?
Why not?
Okay, so you're checking out.
I see that you got some eggs today, Mrs. Smith.
I did.
Is there anything else you need? Did you find everything okay?
I did. I found everything. Well, I didn't find Pop-Tarts. My dog loves Pop-Tarts. And I didn't find any. So.
Are you supposed to, sorry, freeze for a second. Are you supposed to be prolonging?
No, I'm going to end I'm done.
Oh, you're going to be done.
Paid, yeah.
Well, sorry, we don't have Pop-Tarts at the store.
At all?
No.
Do you know a store nearby that has Pop-Tarts?
Safeway's got them.
Can you take me there and show me?
Yes.
Yes. See, most people go no. But now we have a scene where this guy's leaving his job. There's consequences maybe. His boss comes looking for him. Who knows? Take the active choice. It's way more interesting to take the active choice. And this is where I want to hone in on our lives. Think, if I was reading my life as a book, what would I want the main character, me, what would I want them to do in this situation? What would I want them to do? If I was reading this, if I was watching a movie, would it be just boom, boring, no choices, sit on the couch, watch TV, eat potato chips, all that? Like, that's not interesting. And essentially, it's asking God, what do you want me to do right now? And if you know that, if you can actually hear some sort of impression from God, if you ask him and just feel out like, he probably wants me to do this, forgive that person, whatever it may be, you're hearing from the Holy Spirit. God is the author. He says that. He's the author and the finisher of our faith. If you know what the better story is. So I'll give you a little example from life. So this is just this last week, I was falling asleep on the couch. One of those sleep-deprived parents who's like, I'm so tired. It's getting late. It's like sundown on like a Thursday. It's cold outside, right? It's just last week. I'm slowly collapsing. Leona, my 7-year-old, walks up to me and goes, Mommy, please jump on the trampoline with me. I do not want to jump on the trampoline. I want to nap. I want to... It's dark, it's cold. That is the worst idea in my mind. I'm like, no. But I hear this echoing in my head. What is the better story? If I was reading a book, if I was watching this, would you want to see the mom take a nap? The end. Or would you want to see her get up and jump with her kid out in the dark, right? So I was like, fine, and I forced myself to wake up, and I went out, and I jumped with my 2 kiddos, and it was a blast. And we giggled, and I tickled them and chased them around, and I jumped, and I got my exercise that I'd also neglected that day.
That's a really good example, by the way.
Yeah, and he even called me. He's like, oh, I'm almost home from work. I'm like, yeah, we're jumping on the trampoline. And he's like, what? Because it was dark out. Anyway, so I was so glad I made that choice. But it was the better story, right? And now I can tell you that story instead of, hey, I have a good story. I took a nap on the couch. The end. So the next one, when in doubt, break the routine. Okay, so if there's a routine going on, so can I get a relationship? Like cousins, okay. And can I get a location for these cousins? Safeway. Cousins at Safeway. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to establish a routine. Okay. So the way the story is, the once upon a time and every day. Okay. We're just going to establish that.
I'm so excited that we're back having our famous sleepover party again. Yes! We have to have our 2 favorite foods for tomorrow morning. We have to have popcorn. Grab the popcorn.
Okay.
Just like every day, every time we have a sleepover.
We always have it.
And you know what the second thing is? Pancakes.
Pancakes!
But we're out of syrup, so I have to get some syrup.
Yeah. We're going to do everything just like we always did. We're going to have like the movie night, and wherever your dad is in the store, he'll like borrow this for us. Yeah, so freeze. So if we're insecure and we don't know how to tell a story, we will continue in this phase and just talk and be talking heads, and nothing will happen. We'll be like, yeah, this will be great. Let's do this. Something needs to change. So let's change it. Let's break our routine.
You know what? Why wait for tomorrow morning? If your dad's going to buy all this stuff for us, we might as well eat it now.
Let's eat it in the store.
Yeah. Chug it.
Okay. Oh, yeah. See, okay. So you want to see the end of that when the dad shows up? That's interesting. We're breaking the routine. So how about you? Do you feel stuck in life? Your scene? What's been going on? What's your everyday? Maybe you need to break your routine. If I have a routine of going to bed late and sleeping in and missing devotional time, I need to break that routine. I need to have a one day something different happened, right? I need to take that opportunity. Maybe you've been asked to like speak up here and that's scary. You got to break your routine, jump out of your comfort zone, right? So think about like what part of the story am I in? Maybe I'm in the tumultuous time, and I need to establish a new flow. And then, pay attention. Most solutions rise out of what has already been said or done. So listen and remember. If you're stuck in a scene, look back at what has already happened. A lot of times we don't know how to end our scenes, and it's like we dropped so many offers, we said so many things we did not pick back up at the end. Have you ever been reading a book and they just mention this random thing like the door was red, and they made a specific point to mention it, and you go, why did they do that? I bet later that's going to come back in. Have you guys ever had that in a movie? Or like the camera zooms in on like someone's shoes for way too long, and you're just like, they're doing that to set you up for the end. So in improv, we have to drop those out and then just pick them up at the end and make it ourselves in the moment. But we need to pay attention. If I paid attention, I wouldn't have called him Charlie and then Marcus, right? But we have to remember what's already happened and incorporate that into our lives. So this is the point of this is remember what God has done for you. Remember how he got you through something like this before. And pay attention to the scene and trust what other people around you are saying. In the improv scene, yes, but in life, are the people around you saying things you need to pay attention to? And then the last one, and then I'm going to close. Keep the action on stage. Okay, here's one. So what we're going to do is we're going to be talking heads. And we are going to be, so this is one of the worst things you can do in improv is talk about something that's happening over there, and this happens a lot. So, hey, Dad, wow, they're really doing a lot of work on your car over there.
Yeah, they've been washing it and waxing it, and they fixed the bumper.
That's great.
And look at this guy. He's actually getting into the car and vacuuming every nook and cranny.
Wow, I'm really glad that we could just talk, and you're like, wow. We're just standing here being talking heads. We're gossiping about something else instead of like actually,
grab a sponge.
Yeah, we're going to clean this car. We're going to do this. And then,
Oh man, there's a dead rat stuck in the hubcap.
I'm not touching that. Oh,
No, you're gonna touch
I need
that.
an N95 mask. There's
You're-
poop everywhere.
It's time for you to get over your fears.
No, Dad, no.
Your whole life, you've been afraid of rats. Come here.
You're right.
This is your opportunity. Come here.
Anyway, so that's getting in it, doing it, keeping the action on stage. Talking about what others are doing is a waste of time. But how often do we do that? Look what they're doing, blah, 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 and blah, blah, blah. And it's just a huge waste of time. Do it yourself. Do the action yourself. Let's see here. If we knew what God wanted us to be doing, if we knew our calling, if we knew our identity, we wouldn't waste our time gossiping. We wouldn't waste our time sinning. We would just be doing what our goal is. We would be living a fulfilling, abundant life. But because we get so distracted by not knowing who we are, we'll get wrapped up in what's going on out there and our friends and the drama or whose grades or this or that, and social media is a huge distraction. And I always think of Hebrews, I'm sorry. I'm skipping that. I'll read this verse. Hebrews 12, 1-2 says, "Therefore, since we are surrounded by such a great cloud of witnesses, let us throw off everything that hinders and the sin that so easily entangles, and let us run with perseverance the race marked out for us, fixing our eyes on Jesus, the pioneer and perfecter of our faith." So I think about fixing our eyes on Jesus instead of what's going on around us. And don't gossip, get to work. I think of the end of John. When Peter is being reinstated because he denied Christ 3 times, and then they're out and they've got the fish, and he says, "Do you love me?" 3 times, and Peter is hurt, right? Then apparently they get up and start walking at some point, even though the Bible doesn't really say that. They just they're following along. And it says this, "Peter turned and saw the disciple whom Jesus loved was following them. When Peter saw him, he asked, 'Lord, what about him?' And Jesus answered, 'If I want him to remain alive until I return, what is that to you? You must follow me.'" What is that to you? That person's being so successful spiritually. That person's doing all these great things. I feel so small. Like Jesus says, I don't care what that guy's doing. That's between me and him. You follow me. Don't compare yourself to other people. Don't get wrapped up in that. It is just going to cause you to feel insecure or too puffed up and important, right? Everyone else is lower than me. I can criticize and keep them down so I feel good. That's all just smoke and mirrors. Just look at Jesus in the eyes and say, "What do you think of me?" And he will tell you, and it will be good. So if I could boil all these things down to the 3 principles, last slide, or actually there's 2 slides, but so their takeaway, you don't need to awkwardly stand up here anymore. Thank you. Be your genuine self. No editing, right? Just be you. No filters. Don't be afraid to step out on a limb. There are no bad ideas. Don't be afraid to speak up. Failure is okay. Just get back up and don't be ashamed of who you are. I think of a story I forgot to say earlier. Jesse was in he works in the hospital, and he was in some sort of training, and the man presenting was a doctor, and he knew all these important things, and Jesse was listening, and the guy kept using the measuring equivalent of a sonometer. He kept saying the sonometer this and sonometer that, and Jesse's going, "What's a sonometer? I don't want to say anything. There's all these doctors around me." His job is a lot lower than the other people in the room, and they've all had this medical education, so he's quiet. And then finally he just goes, "I don't care what I look like. I'm just going to ask. Hey, excuse me, I'm sorry, I know you all probably know, but I don't. What is a sonometer?" And the guy goes, "Oh, did I say that? Sorry, I say that word wrong all the time. I meant centimeter." And there was a collective, gasp. Everyone else was thinking the same thing, and everyone was too afraid to ask. Everyone went, "Oh, man." Finally, one guy was brave enough to just go on a limb and look stupid, right? And just break that. So just don't be worried about that. Just go for it, and it's a better story. Yes, and just try it. Just if I could, just the yes and, I use that in life. I just go, When the kids are fighting, I go, yes, and. How can we yes, and? How can we say, yes, I will do your idea, and I can add to it? How can I agree? How can I work together? How can we build instead of tear down? Instead of blocking and saying, no, your idea is bad. I still do that quite a bit. I am at nature more of a critical person, and I've been trying to work on that. And improv has helped me a ton. And then lastly, take the active choice. Pay attention. Don't stay safe. Don't worry what others are doing. Don't talk about what's going on out there. Just do the active choice in your life. And the final slide. If you do these things, you will live the better story. So I just challenge you as you meditate on this idea. If my life it is a story, and there are people there are angels and the whole universe is watching us, right? What kind of story do you want to live? And each little choice we make, we can make an active choice or a passive choice. A choice toward God or a choice away from Him, a choice toward reconciliation or a choice of selfishness, of fear, scarcity. And so I just lay it out there for you to live the better story.
All these pieces broken and scattered, in mercy gathered, mended and whole, empty-handed but not forsaken. I've been set free. I've been set free. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. Oh, I once was lost, but now I am found. Was blind, but now I see. Oh, I can see it now. Oh, I can see the love in your eyes, laying yourself down, raising up the broken to life. You take our failure, you take our weakness, you set your treasure in jars of clay. So take this heart, Lord, I'll be your vessel, the world to see your life in me. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. Oh, I once was lost, but now I am found. Was blind, but
I thank you for this time. I thank you for the Sabbath. And your story is the greatest story ever told. You being high and coming down and being low for us. And I just ask for all of us here, myself included, wherever we're at, with you, with life, all the stress, the anxiety, Lord, if we can just take a moment and evaluate, where can I take the active choice with you, God? Where can I step out in faith? Where can I make a good decision to break my routine and to come into a closer walk with you, God? How can I lift up those around me? How can I say yes and to them instead of blocking them? How can I repair the trust that may have been broken? And God, help us to see us how you see us. You don't see the filters we put on. You see through the Instagram posts and the lighting and the Photoshop and makeup and the things we wear to look cool, or the things we say to cover up how we feel inside. Like, you see through all of that. There are no filters. And you love us the way we are. Help us to be unafraid of being who you made us to be. And help us to live the better story because you are the author. So I pray that we can each, tonight as we go home, as we're introspective, Lord, that you will speak to us in the way we can understand, to know how to, whatever choice we're struggling with right now, that we can be guided by you to take that active choice. In Jesus' name, amen.
Nobody said that they could leave. There's afterglow if you want to stay.